Welcome to my channel, my friends. Today I want to take you on an incredible journey. A journey that might just shift how you think about life, wealth, and success. What I'm about to tell you isn't just a story. It's a life-changing lesson that's impacted millions, including me. We're diving into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of the most influential books ever written about financial freedom. Picture this. You're a young child, watching adults around you. One tells you to study hard, get a good job, and save every penny. Another says, learn how money truly works. Use it smartly and build lasting wealth. Two very different perspectives. Which one would you choose? This was the reality of Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He had two father figures in his life with totally different views. He called them his poor dad and his rich dad. Poor Dad was his biological father, an educated man with a stable job. He was a teacher who believed success came from hard work, good grades, and climbing the corporate ladder. But even with his education, Poor Dad struggled financially. He lived paycheck to paycheck, always stressed about bills, and avoided talking about money. Rich Dad, however, wasn't academically educated. He had no prestigious degree or secure job. But he had something far greater: financial wisdom. Rich Dad owned businesses, made smart investments, and believed financial education was more valuable than school degrees. He'd say, "Don't work for money. Make money work for you." Now picture Robert, a young boy, standing between these two mentors, both offering advice, but their guidance couldn't be more different. Poor Dad said, "Find a secure job." Rich Dad said, "Create jobs." Poor Dad said, "Money is easy." Rich Dad said, "Lack of money is the real problem." Robert was torn. He loved both fathers, but he began noticing a pattern. His poor dad, despite his knowledge, was constantly stressed over money. His rich dad, with less formal education, was calm and confident about the future. One day, Robert asked Rich Dad, "Why aren't you worried about money?" Rich Dad replied with a smile, "Because I understand it. Most people don't. They work hard for money, but never learn how to make it work for them." That one sentence changed everything for Robert. It sparked curiosity. He chose to learn from Rich Dad, to discover his mindset and follow his path. Now let's pause and think. Isn't this true for many of us? We grow up being told to get good jobs and save for retirement. But are we ever taught how to manage money? Grow it, escape the paycheck to paycheck trap. Your money mindset shapes your future. If you fear money, you'll always chase it. If you view money as a tool, you can control it and build your freedom. Think about this. If you had two roads, one leading to financial struggle and the other to freedom, wouldn't you want to pick the right one? That's what we're exploring today. Rich Dad kept mentoring Robert, and every talk opened his eyes. One day, Rich Dad said something unforgettable. "The rich don't work for money." Robert was shocked. He thought, "Isn't money the whole reason we work?" Rich Dad smiled and said, "No, Robert. The poor and middle class work for money. The rich make money work for them." That's the difference. Rich Dad described what most people live, a cycle he called the rat race. He said, when you're young, you go to school. You're taught to study hard to get a good job. Then you earn money and spend it on things like houses or cars. But those things come with expenses, loans, bills, taxes, repairs, so you work harder to cover it all. It becomes endless. Rich Dad paused and added, "People think they're working for financial security, but they're actually working for their boss, the government, and the bank. The harder they work, the deeper they fall into the trap. That's why most never escape the rat race. Imagine a man named John. He earns $3,000 a month. Then he gets a raise to $4,000. And what does he do? He buys a bigger house, a nicer car, new gadgets. His expenses rise with his income. Instead of saving, he spends. Now he's stuck working harder to maintain it all. Robert realized this was exactly how his poor dad lived. Rich Dad then asked, "Do you know what financial freedom really means?" Robert said no. Rich Dad explained, "Financial freedom means your assets and investments generate enough income to cover your expenses. When that happens, you work only if you want to. Your money works for you," he said. Being rich isn't about earning a huge paycheck. Even high earners can be broke if their spending is out of control. True wealth means owning income-generating assets. Rich Dad gave Robert a lesson on assets versus liabilities. An asset puts money in your pocket, even when you're not working. A liability takes money out. Case 1. A young man uses $10,000 to buy a car. That car needs gas, insurance, maintenance, and it loses value over time. That's a liability. Case 2. Another man uses $10,000 to buy land. He rents it for $200 a month, and the value increases. That's an asset. Robert was shocked. He realized people often mistake liabilities for assets. A house or car feels like wealth, but it often costs more than it makes. Rich Dad taught Robert that the rich buy assets first. They invest in things that produce income, like real estate, stocks, or businesses. Then they use that income to enjoy life's luxuries. To make it even clearer, Rich Dad gave another example. 2 families each earn $5,000 a month. Family A spends all on bills, food, and fun. Nothing left. Family B spends $4,000 and invests $1,000. Over time, they earn $500 a month from those investments. Eventually, that income covers their bills. Family B becomes financially free. Family A stays trapped. Robert was beginning to understand. It's not how much you make, but how you manage it. Rich Dad told him, most people say, "I can't afford it." The rich ask, "How can I afford it?" That small shift in thinking makes a huge difference. When you say "I can't," your mind shuts down. When you ask "How can I?" your brain looks for answers. Rich Dad gave Robert a challenge. If you want something but think you can't afford it, write down 3 ways to make it happen. Maybe cut expenses, start a side hustle, or learn a new skill. This would train Robert's mind to think like the rich. Robert was still nervous about investing. He asked, "What if I lose it all?" Rich Dad smiled. That's the big difference. The poor fear losing money, so they avoid risk. The rich know failure teaches lessons. Make a mistake, learn, try again. Rich Dad shared a 5-step plan to build wealth from scratch. 1. Track spending. Record every expense. See where your money goes. 2. Start small. Invest in simple things like beginner stocks or interest accounts. 3. Learn daily. Read, attend seminars, find mentors. 4. Build assets. Invest in rentals, small businesses, or skill building before buying luxuries. 5. Reinvest. Use profits to grow wealth. Don't spend them. As Robert followed this path, his thinking changed. He saw money not as something to spend, but something to grow. He searched for investment opportunities, and over time, his mindset shifted from lack to abundance. Rich Dad's teachings were changing his life. Then, Rich Dad shared a new lesson. To become wealthy, control your emotions. Robert was puzzled. What do emotions have to do with money? Rich Dad smiled. Everything. Fear and greed control most people's money decisions. Fear keeps people stuck in jobs they hate. They fear losing income, so they trade their dreams for security. That fear traps them. Someone wants to start a business but doesn't. Fear of failure, judgment, or loss holds them back, so they stay stuck. Rich Dad said, the rich feel fear too, but they take action anyway. That's the difference. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. Greed is another trap. They don't invest, don't study taxes, and stay confused. That ignorance keeps them stuck. He urged Robert to learn 3 things. 1. Investments, stocks, real estate, and more. 2. Taxes, how the rich legally reduce their taxes. 3. Markets, when to buy, when to sell. Knowledge, Rich Dad said, destroys fear. One major lesson was to stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like an investor. Earn 1,000. The consumer spends it. The investor asks, how can I make more with this? Buy stocks, start a business, or invest in a course. That money grows instead of disappearing. Rich Dad trained Robert to spot opportunity. He said, don't just walk past shops. Ask, how could I own this? Think like a creator, not just a buyer. Robert practiced and noticed so many opportunities. A cafe for sale, a fixer-upper property, a digital business idea. As he acted on what he learned, others doubted him. Some said investing was too risky. Even Poor Dad told him to play it safe. Rich Dad warned, people criticize what they don't understand. Their fears aren't yours. If you listen to them, you'll become them. Instead, stay focused and surround yourself with people who think bigger. Rich Dad reminded Robert, start small. Every big success starts with small wins. Like a young woman who started investing with just $50. She gained confidence with each step. Success is built gradually. Rich Dad also stressed daily habits. Your habits shape your future. Save and invest consistently, but if you spend it all, you'll never grow. He gave Robert 2 powerful habits. 1. Pay yourself first. Save and invest before paying bills. 2. Track your progress. Write down your financial wins. This motivates and keeps you focused. But Rich Dad warned, don't expect instant results. Many give up too soon. Building wealth takes time. like growing a tree. You don't see fruit right away, but if you stay patient, it will come. Wealth isn't about money. It's about freedom, to live on your terms, follow your passions, and help others. That's what it means to be truly rich. One day, after many lessons, Rich Dad said, "Now you're ready for the ultimate truth about success. It's not about luck or talent. It's about mindset, action, and effort." Robert leaned in closer. Rich Dad continued, "Many people dream big, but few act. They wait for the perfect time, but there's no such thing. The best time to start is now." He gave an example. Two friends. One says, "I'll invest when I earn more." The other starts saving $10 a week. 10 years later, the second friend is wealthy. The first is still waiting. Opportunities are everywhere, but only the doers succeed. Start now. Use what you have. Rich Dad reminded Robert, failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it. Every successful person failed many times. He shared a story about a man who failed 5 businesses, but the 6th became a massive success. If he quit earlier, he'd never make it. Rich Dad emphasized discipline. Anyone can spend money. It takes control to save and invest it. Always pay yourself first. This habit forces creativity and builds financial strength. He also said, "Don't let doubt control your dreams. Focus on goals, not fears. Where your thoughts go, your life follows." As their time came to an end, Rich Dad shared one final secret. The wealthiest people are givers. Robert was confused. How does giving make you rich? Rich Dad explained, when you give, you create value. Whether it's knowledge, mentorship, or charity, giving back multiplies success. He told Robert about a man who started a scholarship fund. That act helped hundreds and opened doors to new businesses and partnerships. Rich Dad ended with one final message. The moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing. Years later, Robert looked back, his life transformed by Rich Dad's wisdom. He gained more than money. He found freedom, purpose, and power to uplift others. Robert shared this. No matter your background, you can change your future. Your mindset and actions matter more than your bank balance. Wealth isn't just money. It's the power to follow your dreams and live with no regrets. As this story ends, remember, your journey begins now. Start small, stay consistent, learn from mistakes, dream big, never stop, because your only limit is the one you accept. The world is waiting. Make your move. Your time is now.